And you're welcome to Trader Chat. And we all know what information vacuums can do to people. Is Kim Jong-un alive? Is he not? Has he lost weight? Is he sick? We don't know. And we can only just deal in idle speculation. Of course, there was no Trader Chat last week. So people were probably wondering where Flynn Goward was. Was he going to the races, having jolly ups as you can in the great island that is Britain? Or was he just not well, or what was going on? But he's back. Flynn Goward is back with Johnny Ward. We have an awful lot to get through. And I mentioned it here, the Open, Formula One, the Curragh Saturday, Newbury Saturday, Sean Teal, Euros wrap-up, Star Sports Greyhound Derby wrap-up. And we're going to look forward to the Olympics and the King George and Goodwood as well. Flynn, reports of your death have been greatly miscalculated, really.
They certainly have. The reason that I wasn't here last week was I thought I'd give the punters a week off because obviously England didn't win the Euros. That Monday after the Euros was just the most somber day. So I thought, let's give everyone a week off Trader Chat, and then we'll come back strong a week after. I feel much better this morning. Complete contrast to last Monday with a hangover.
Yeah, you've cut to the chase there. Effectively, you were too hungover on Monday to do the show. And just if you're watching this, dear watcher, dear listener, I put into the WhatsApp group, hope you're all doing okay today after England's defeat, which was a gentle kind of thinly veiled, what time are we recording? But there was no response. And there was still no response until Tuesday, Flynn, because you were still in the depths of despair.
I certainly was, but to be honest, it was more of a football hangover than an actual hangover. I felt absolutely knackered after the tournament, and it was just a very somber Monday. So I thought that we'd give the punters a week off, and then we'd come back strongly this week. But the punters were certainly out over the past week and the weekend anyway, Jolly. But I think the best place to start, and it's a bit different with us starting with golf. We never normally do start with golf, but as it was a major, I think that the only place to start is the Open. Did you manage to watch any of it at the weekend?
No, and regular listeners will know that I'm averse not only to golf, but people who play golf and people who like golf. Well, actually, that's not true, because pretty much all my mates pollute my WhatsApp conversations on weekends, like the one just gone, talking about Rory McIlroy incessantly and so forth. And I've absolutely no interest. Don't know who won. Don't really care. But obviously, Star Sports did. How did it go?
I don't even know who won the Open.
No.
Terrible. Collin Morikawa won. Was hugely impressive, winning the 149th Open Championship. His iron play is just on point at the moment, and he's the best iron player, I think, since Tiger Woods. He's unbelievable with the irons. His approach play is just sublime. But for me, over the weekend, it was a short game that took all the plaudits. He's kind of people speak about him not being a great putter and his chipping not being amazing. But when he does putt well, then he wins. It's just simple as that. So I think that we're getting to the point now that with Collin Morikawa, whenever he's around the 33-1 mark, if he ever drifts to 40, because he can bomb out, Collin Morikawa, he can bomb out and miss the cut like he did at the Scottish Open last week. That was his first time, I believe, playing links golf last week at the Scottish Open, then came to the Open, and then he's gone and won, so he won't miss cut and then won. I think whenever he's around the 33-1 mark, I think he's an auto bet in any tournament, because when the irons are on and when the putting is on, then he will just win. I think it's similar, could be said for Jon Rahm. His all-round game is obviously better than Collin Morikawa, being bang up there in terms of being the best in the world. But in terms of the iron play, it's just unbelievable.
Well, it's interesting you bring up Jon Rahm, because I want to bring in my mate Julian here. So we were talking about the fact that, to my mind, Spain were the best team at the Euros. They didn't get to the final, obviously, didn't win it. But I thought they were better than Italy, and Italy ended up winning it. That was grand. So Julian pointed out to me, you can get like a bit of 10-1 about Spain winning the World Cup. And when you bear in mind it's going to take place in Qatar, and you bear in mind, and I spoke with our erstwhile friend Adam Russell about this, that effectively the World Cup is weaker than the Euros now. And so if Spain are going to be the best passing team in the World Cup, they're available at what price are they with Star, for example?
17-2 for the World Cup, Spain.
17-2. Okay. So then he said, I tell you what, that's a good bet, but how about doubling it up with Jon Rahm to win the Masters? Because he's so consistent, and the WhatsApp group, the great punting WhatsApp group, which remember, it's 12 months away. I mean, his form could dip, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, he put on a very speculative each way double. And I'm now wondering what price that would pay with Star Sports. 17-2
into, let me just get the price up here. He will be favourite, Jon Rahm, and he is made for the Masters. He's had some fantastic performances there, but the double, just looking here, so 10-1 Jon Rahm, so the double for a £1 stake, 103.5 to 1.
Beautiful. So that's just don't say you weren't warned. But Jon Rahm obviously is in a good position to kind of maybe kick on in the majors, but he didn't win this one.
He didn't know. He was still very, very popular with the punters, though. He was the 3-event favourite around the 17-2 mark. He finished well to grab a place. He hit an eagle on the last day on hole 7. Finished really well, but he's just so good that he's always going to be up there. We actually did our money on the places because we laid Oosthuizen as well, who was up there for the whole way. He's typically a major bridesmaid. And then we laid Steve each way as well. So they were both losers before the off. So we did do our money on the places. Before the tournament, Collin Morikawa was a fantastic result, but in the tournament, absolutely horrific. We laid him heavily at 2-1 just before his last round, which made him a loser and made us lose on the whole tournament overall. So it was a tough tournament for us. Just moving forward to look at the next 3 majors for next year, the kind of next big event for us would be the Ryder Cup this year. That gets started in the back end of September. But in terms of the majors for Morikawa next year, he's 20-1 for all 3 majors. Like I say, he does have the tendency to kind of bomb out in certain weeks, and he could be a win-only proposition sometimes.
Yeah.
But if he does start bombing out and then going off the 33-1 mark, I think he's an auto bet. So just one to look out for. 20-1 for all 3 majors next year. When the market really cottons onto him, he will start going off shorter. We also ran our Mr. Cut offer. So if you had a bet before the start of the second round and you're playing Mr. Cut, you got your money back as a free bet up to 100 quid. These are players with the likes of Tyrrell Hatton, Russell Henley, Martin Keimer, Patrick Cantlay, and Patrick Reed. So some real top players there that missed the cut in the Open, and you got your money back as a free bet up to 100 quid. So well done to you guys there.
Let's talk Formula One as well. I'm reading of more online abuse, racist abuse for Lewis Hamilton, which just seems to be a theme across all sports. And we will obviously talk about football as well. But yeah, what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, the online abuse is just, I mean, obviously it's horrible, but it really is getting tiring hearing about it over and over again. It's just so disappointing to see. It was a fantastic race as well. The abuse, I would imagine, is coming from the kind of certain, I would call them fans, but they're not really fans of any type of squad. They're just horrible people. But from people who would support Max Verstappen, the season really is hotting up now after the British Grand Prix at the weekend. There was a crash on that one. There was probably 3 or 4 corners where Hamilton and Verstappen were going toe-to-toe. Verstappen's obviously a very, very aggressive driver. So in my opinion, in terms of the crash, there's been a huge amount of kind of talk about the crash, whose fault it was, etc. I think it's just a racing incident. Verstappen was left in the tyres, so he had to retire from the race. There was a red flag. They got restarted. Hamilton had a 10-second penalty. He managed to chase down Charles Leclerc in the last couple of laps. So he was actually the winner and gained a huge amount of points on Verstappen. But that crash on lap 1 was the massive talking point. Verstappen now just has an 8-point gap at the top. He did have a 33-point gap going into the race. So we now bet Verstappen 8-15 to win the title, 11-8 Hamilton, and 100-1 bar. So it really is a 2-horse heat there. We actually laid Leclerc at 11-2 for the race, and that almost came off for the punters. They came ever so close. He only caught him in the last 2 laps. He was gaining about a second a lap, and then he actually overtook Leclerc on the same corner that he tried to dive up the inside of Verstappen, where Verstappen kind of cut him off, and then he obviously went off into the tyres. So it was a bit of a point of proof from Hamilton actually diving up the inside of a corner where the Red Bull bosses said he shouldn't be diving up the inside of that corner. And then he actually overtook the race leader with 2 laps to go on the same corner with exactly the same manoeuvre up the inside. So fantastic drive from Hamilton. Thank God that Verstappen's okay. After the crash, we heard Christian Horner say it was a 51G crash. So obviously it was a really hefty shunt into the tyres. He went to hospital and he turned out to be all okay, thank God. But yeah, it was a fantastic race to watch and a great drive from Hamilton. But that's how we bet. So 8-15 Verstappen, 11-8 Hamilton. We do have lots of Formula One specials as well, which do go up for each weekend. So do get that checked out. It's going to be a fantastic end to the season anyway.
Yeah, and let's hope Lewis Hamilton comes out and kind of exposes this stuff. I don't really know the answer because I think the internet is sort of designed for, I guess, the freedom of speech and
platforms, doesn't it? It has to be down to the platform.
Yeah, I've often thought there would be scope for like a social media platform that's verified. Like, so it'd be this effectively some sort of version of Twitter, but you have to verify your identity. Now, that might kind of lead to issues in terms of whistleblowing on Twitter being probably a good thing that kind of can benefit from anonymity. But otherwise, I don't see why people should be able to go on and abuse other people without even having given their own kind of personal information. And ultimately, I think a lot of these people should probably just, a lot of celebrities should probably, unless they're getting a lot of value out of social media, should probably just go off it because I don't think it's enriching their lives. But anyway, let's get to racing. Now, the Curragh on Saturday, obviously the hot favourite for the Oaks, who did the job. I'm not sure if there were massive ramifications there in the market. I don't think people tend to bet these horses, or that's what they tell me at the track anyway, and they are returning to the track. We also had Newbury and an interesting card in Shanty yesterday.
We did indeed. The Shanti card wasn't actually too interesting for us because we just did our money, but we'll come on to that shortly anyway. Curragh on Saturday, so like you said, Snowfall absolutely destroyed our opposition in the Irish Oak. It was a complete class apart. Very small loser in the race. It was just too short to lay. We do seem to see this when we do have 4 on shots. I mean, 3 on, you do tend to get a bit more business, but when you get to 4 on, 5 on, you do see very little amount of money, especially in singles.
Do you know the way Kevin Pullein in the race post, he can kind of come up with exactly the right, odds or exactly the right probability for the first corner in a game or something like obscure like that, or he'll come up with, like, he even came up with a system one time where you can effectively with good certainty kind of come up with the right price for a fella to get the first goal in a game. I was thinking about this the weekend. This is probably a great example of being able to exactly predict what price a horse should be, because Snowfall just had to run her race or thereabouts. She's a 3-year-old filly. So you could factor in what can go wrong for Snowfall is that she gets injured during the race. She works herself up so badly beforehand that she doesn't run her race. Because there was literally no chance whatsoever, no chance of any of these horses improving beyond her. It just couldn't happen.
Money for one of them. Was it Nicest? I think there's a bit of money for Nicest.
Right. I liked Divinely Without because she'd run so well at Epsom and she's by Galileo. So she's kind of, if you took Snowfall out of the equation, she was kind of the best middle distance horse, maybe thereabouts, that has run this season in terms of the fillies. And I thought, like, she did excuse to Ascot. I thought she'd run her race and she was kind of probably ridden to come second to an extent. But it would have been interesting because Snowfall could well have been value at sort of 1 to 3 in that she basically just had to not completely flop. And what's the chance of a 3-year-old filly? So maybe she's in season. Things can go wrong for a 3-year-old filly. Sometimes fillies won't perform. But there's probably a good, there's probably, if you ask the right experts, they could say exactly what her right price is. And I'd say it was something like 1 to 7, really, because what are the odds she just completely bombs? Like, she runs 25 pounds below her best. And obviously she didn't. But we still don't really know in terms of the narrative. Aidan has so many of these good middle distance horses this season. As I was saying last week, if you ran the Champion Stakes this season in Ireland, Aidan could have 8 really good runners just alone himself. And Snowfall probably wouldn't be favoured.
Yeah, possibly. And I mean, that brings us nicely into the Arc, doesn't it? Because when you look at the Arc of Triumph betting, it's just littered with Ballydoyle horses. She's now 7-2 favourite for the Arc, so did clip in, I think, from 9 to 2, around 41, 19 mark. So very, very small clip in for Snowfall. Like I say, with the Arc, he's got such a strong hand in the betting Ballydoyle, and Aidan O'Brien will just get the betting up here, just have a really quick spin through. So for the Arc, Snowfall 7-2 favourite, Love 5 to 1. Hurricane Lane's kind of put his stamp on the race at 6 to 1, winning impressively very recently. So St Mark's Basilica's in there at 7. Am I right in thinking that St Mark's might be going to York?
He is, yeah. I think Ian was speaking in the Racing Post about it today. So I'm not sure about him trip-wise. It's kind of interesting. Will he? I almost think he might be better dropping back to a mile than going a mile and a half. But by all accounts, he is going to York, yeah. Where I saw the great Franco win the race one time.
Yeah, he's a 6 to 5 favourite for the Jubbmont. Second in again, Love at 130. She probably won't go there. She's looking to go. We'll have decks by the time this comes out, but looking to go to the King George this weekend. So it looks like he's going to go over to York and try his stuff over there. But yeah, Ballydoyle in a fantastic place at the moment. But just getting back to the price of Snowfall, it's a weird one because when you're at 4 on or 5 on, you don't even want to stick that in multiples because you kick yourself when if he gets beat, and it's not enhancing your multiple by very much either.
Yeah.
Hence why we didn't see kind of a huge amount of action on the race anyway. It was a horrible each way race as well, so we didn't really want to lay too many each way bets. We were steering people towards the betting without markets, trying to stay away from that filthy each way. But that was the feature at Curragh on Saturday. We had Mooneaster.
Yeah.
Announce it. Took home the Group 2 Sapphire Stakes. A great result for us. We laid Romantic Proposal and the great Maker Challenge with the popular horses there. So good result for us there, winning it around the 10 to 1 mark. The other group race on the card was the 220. This Group 3 went the way of Beauty Inspire. Did see a few doubles flying around for Beauty Inspire about the 1 to 2 mark, and then Snowfall out about 4 on. But not a huge amount going on. But she was a small loser in the book in terms of singles. And yeah, like I say, that short price double got off to a flyer there, and then Snowfall completed it a little later on. That was the main bit still back from the Curragh. So now moving on to Newbury, just a couple of races really quickly here. The Group 3 Hackwood Stakes was one of the worst results of the weekend for us. We laid Happy Romance at 9 to 1 and 17 to 2 for very decent sums. And the tie finish didn't go our way there. So that was one of the results of the weekend. I've kind of look back on it, and it does leave a little bit of sour taste, but it is what it is. Then the feature of Newbury was the super sprint, and Goodwood really shortened up. We laid a decent bit of 11-2, even 6-1. Went off 4-1, was well found in the market and was well backed to. So on the racing front, not a great kind of weekend for us, to be honest with you, and even worse on the golf front. And then just moving on to Chantilly, just very, very quickly, we had some quick races on the card there. None of them were a good result for us. Victor Ladorum shortened up massively, and he absolutely sleuthed up. We laid big bets of 7-4 and at SP to even. So Ben was looking at that bet. He wouldn't be happy at all, mainly due to the price. Not a good bet to lay all round, obviously, in hindsight. And then the 325 was the Prix, where we laid notable grace, big sums each way at 92 and 4-1. Again, turned out to be a terrible result, winning in the side finish. It did look beat all the way up the straight, and then just found more and more and more. And actually, SP to 29-10. So funny old SP, and not a good one when you're laying 92 and 4-1. SP shorter than threes is never good. So a weekend to forget on the racing front, to be honest with you, Johnny. We'll kind of kick on, moving on to the next week. I guess we do just want to wrap up the Greyhound Derby really quickly, because obviously we had the football hangover last week, so we couldn't film. So
yeah, Victor Ladorum got off evens favourite and hacking up, beating Brentford Hope at 9-1. And yeah, there are the bets that Ben Keats doesn't like to lay. But to be fair, Star Sports, in these big races, they will take an opinion. They won't hedge their bets. And sometimes they lay a 7-4 shot who probably should have been 4-7. Let's get to the Star Sports Greyhound Derby. What was the night like actually at Toaster? This is one of the reasons I wanted to check in with you last week. You were obviously too sad and hungover on Monday. Not from the Greyhound Derby, but from England. But what was the night like, Derby final night at Toaster?
It was a great night, to be fair. It was funny choosing where to pitch up. So we did 3 pitches. We did one outside the marquee where a lot of the kind of bubbly, the people that own the bubbly dogs in the syndicate were in there. So we had a pitch outside there. We also had the main pitch where Lofty and Ben were. Then I bet a little bit around the corner, but it was really busy, but in like a kind of small area, if that makes sense. So the main pitch turned out a huge amount more than any of the other pitches, but the main pitch was fantastic. Great atmosphere, great cheers, and not bad results either, to be fair. Form Falcon bolting out trap 6 in the actual derby itself and led the whole way. He was a small winner in the anti-post book, but was a great winner for us on course, which kept laying the short ones. Beerjet Sydney was really popular, actually. To go back to back, New in Session was the only loser going into the race anti-post, so that was one that we needed to beat. Form Falcon was a great result. We've even got next year's event priced up, and Form Falcon and Explosive Boy joint favourites at first 33-1. So just a real quick wrap up of the Greyhound Derby there. It was a great year. Thank you everybody for coming out and come and say hello on the pitches. And we'll be back to do exactly the same next year.
Yeah, and big news obviously with the Olympics about to start. I was just reading this morning, I think 50%, if not more, of Japanese people don't really want to go ahead, which is kind of understandable because most people aren't actually interested in sport for a start, not to mind the Olympics, which I have to say I would have very little interest in despite the fact I'm into sport. But, do punters have an interest in it? And for a trader, it must be, and obviously for traders, it must involve a hell of a lot of work.
It does indeed, because you're kind of dealing with competitors and athletes that you don't typically deal with. So in terms of a form book, it's very, very difficult to price up. Whereas when you're kind of dealing with a standard football match or a horse race where you know the horses, you can compile it fairly easily through form. And obviously you've got kind of Betfair markets to guide you if you would need that.
Yeah.
I'm not ashamed to say that. That's just how it is. Whereas with these kind of manually built markets, it's a lot different. But we've given it a good old go, to be fair, Johnny. If you do go to the Olympics part of the site, we've got the most medals, the most gold medals, top team, the top nation medals. We've got medal lines there. So we've got the USA medals. We've got the line at 43.5. We can bet 5 to 6 either side. China gold medals, we've got the line at 37.5. You can bet evens over and 8 to 11 under. GB gold medals, we've got the line at 14.5. You can bet over at evens and then under at 8 to 11. We've got these for lots of different countries. But then we've also got lots of the events priced up, to be fair, in terms of the outright. So just looking at all the swimming, we've got all the swimming priced up. Every single pretty much individual type of swimming. We've got the diving up there. We've got the sculls. We've got, like, in terms of most of the sports, we've pretty much got them priced up. We are looking to cover every single sport at the Olympics. I'm not saying it's all going to be up there now because it hasn't started yet, but we are looking to cover every sport with special profile on kind of the high profile sports and also the high profile athletes. We've actually gone up with the boxing as well, which is quite interesting. So we've got the Olympic boxing up there in terms of the weights and who's going to win the category. We've got the Team GB boxers. We've got them highlighted at the top. We know that the boxing is really, really, really popular at the Olympics. And like you just said, Johnny, the Olympics typically, I feel like, isn't one of the things that you get really excited for before it. But when it's actually on, I always watch it. So it's probably quite a good thing to have a bet on because you're watching it so much, and it's just a good fun bet, isn't it? So we've got an absolute plethora of markets to get stuck into, and we've also got a couple of offers as well. So in the Olympics golf, if you lead any round of the golf, you'll get your stake back as a free bet regardless of the result. So if he leads the first round and then gets beat, you'll get your stake back as a free bet. Or if he leads any round and wins, then you'll also get your free bet. So a good offer to get stuck into there on the Olympic golf. And we've seen some good players going over there. I believe Morikawa, who was obviously won the Open, I think he's going over. I could be wrong there, but I think he is. And then Tommy Fleetwood going over for the TGB. So some real top quality players going over. And then in the Olympic tennis, we're going to do, if you're beaten in a final set tie break, because it's best of 3 sets at the Olympics, then you'll get your money back as a free bet. So we've got a couple of offers going on for the Olympics there in terms of the individual sports. And like I say, just have a look at the site, have a look at the app. We've got so many markets up in terms of the Olympics. I'd like to think that we're one of the places to go if you do want to find a price.
Yeah, and obviously that tennis offer following on from Wimbledon. We're going to wrap up with a little bit of Goodwood and obviously the King George, which, you know, as we mentioned, this is so laden with middle distance horses at the moment in terms of the Ballydoyle narrative that this could be an incredible race, even if Aidan just ran horses in it. It looks like Love is going to be by far his main contender, but taking on Adair and Mishriff and Lone Eagle potentially, some good 3-year-olds there. This is going to be a cracker. I actually can't really see this horse being beaten, to be honest, Love. I thought her comeback was just brilliant, the way she battled on over probably an inadequate speed test, albeit she was well placed. But if she were to win impressively, and you know, it's just a fascinating year, obviously, Flynn, because Galileo has passed away. So St. Mark's Basilica is going to be catapulted into stallion duties, I imagine, at the end of the season, and will be the heir apparent, even if he isn't. But as well as that, obviously, and this obviously brings Adair into it, Franklin's had an unbelievable run this season. So on the stallion side of things, it's very interesting. But if Love were to bolt up here, what an arc we would have down the line, just from, you know, the thoughts of the Irish and British horses. And you could have Snowfall going there to potentially win the race. Her daddy didn't win, even though he probably should have. Deep Impact. There's so much to look forward to in this King George, with regard to the race itself and with regard to the narrative for the season ahead.
Yeah, exactly that. It is worth noting that in terms of the King George, pole driver has been pulled out this morning. So pole driver won't be going for the King George. Now, I don't want to kind of overly talk about the runners and riders, because I know what's going to happen. We're going to get Dex in 15 minutes time. This will go out, and then I've spoken about horse for ages that's actually just been dragged. So I think that Love is obviously going to be the one to beat. I think that we'll probably lay her at the front of the market. I'm actually going to be there on Saturday, so beautiful. I shall be at the track watching it, which will be great. And we've got 18,000 spectators coming to Ascot due to the Ascot, I believe. So should be a really, really good crowd. And also when we look forward to Goodwood as well, obviously that's going to be capacity. So loads of spectators at Goodwood. We're going to do 2 pitches at Goodwood. I'll be on Tats, Lofty will be on the rail. So Goodwood should be an absolutely fantastic week. I can't wait to get going to Goodwood. But we've got loads to look forward to in terms of racing. In terms of Goodwood, we do have some anti-post markers up. We've obviously not got the King George up at the moment because we're expecting declarations.
Yeah.
But in terms of Goodwood, we've got the Goodwood Cup up. Stradivarius 4-6 favourite there. Subjectivist has obviously been pulled out for the season. Really sad news for Mike Johnston today. He's not going to get a run this season. And you kind of got the vibe from Mike Johnston. He's not sure if he's going to be back at all. So fingers crossed that he does get him back all okay. So he's obviously not in the betting there. The Sussex Stakes on the next day, which is on the Wednesday. Palace Pier favourite there, 65. Poetic Flair, 11 to 8, and then your 5-1 bar. Again, with these anti-post markers, he's just guessing where they're going to go. It's littered with fantastic horses at the moment. When you look at the Nassau Stakes, Adoya, I don't know how you say that one, but we'll run with that anyway. Is 5-2 favourite. Snow Lantern, after winning recently, 130. Snowfall there, 130. We probably won't go, I would imagine. Love's also in that race. So we've got loads of anti-post races up for Goodwood, and we've also got quite a few from York as well, just having a look there. So we are getting to kind of the tail end, aren't we, of the flat season? And is it too early to start talking about Cheltenham, Johnny? Is it too early to...
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. It's what are we, July? It's the summer. Yeah. And Cheltenham, I mean, yeah, it's too early. So much water to be under the proverbial bridges, possibly flooding, as we've seen in Germany, in the near future. Anyway, yeah, it's too early. No Cheltenham chat for the next few months.
Okay, well, a few months. I think I can start to get excited in September. But obviously I'm a jumps man through and through, but we have got some fantastic flat stuff coming up towards the back end of the season. So even though the Euros is done, we've got the Olympics to look forward to. We've got some fantastic action in terms of racing. We're going to have the Premier League specials coming this week as well. So do have to keep an eye out for them. We've got people asking for the handicaps for the Premier League. So the football team will be working hard to get that done this week. So we've got loads coming to the site. Do keep your eyes peeled on the Twitter. And I shall see you at Ascot or Goodwood if any punters are going to be there. Come up and say hello.
Yeah, say hello to Flynn, and obviously happy Freedom Day. I'm not entirely sure of Boris Johnson's motivations with this whole thing, but I sincerely hope that it works out. I'd be completely in favour of loosening the shackles myself, and particularly in a country like Ireland, which is far less densely populated than Britain, obviously. But it is with a little bit of envy that we listen to you there with full crowds at Goodwood and people being able to put on bets and just act normally. So I genuinely hope it works out.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I'm not trying to give the Irish the rub down when they see these videos. Hopefully you guys come out of it as soon as you can do. But yeah, I mean, over here, just for the past couple of years, it's just been pretty horrific. So just getting back out on track, and it is starting to feel really normal. So can't wait to get back out. It was great to be at Royal Ascot, although it felt a little bit quieter and still a little bit restrictive. It'll be great to get to the King George. And I mean, 18,000, even though Ascot's huge, 18,000 will feel great. But when we get to Goodwood, I mean, that's just going to be absolutely sublime on the downs. Hopefully it's nice and sunny. And hopefully the punters are around full force and we'll be there taking them on. Top man, Flynn. Have a good week. Thank you. You too. Yeah, that was Trader Chat with Johnny Ward and Flynn Goward. And we will be back not next fortnight, but next week when there'll be no hangovers and no talk to Cheltenham.